everybody. I just wanted to say a few things about my podcast. So, the name has changed to the podcast. I don't know if you've noticed that. It's from You Don't Own Me, which it was prior to I Care About You, is the new name of the podcast. And I just really wanted to talk about why I chose to do that. It was a hard decision because I was really worried that people would leave if I changed the name, and all these things you read about on the internet and everywhere about what happens if you don't do this, that, and the other to be successful. And after a lot of soul searching and really going deep with it, I realized that what matters most to me is helping people and not all that other rhetoric that you can really get caught up in about how to be successful and how to do this and what you're supposed to be doing with a podcast and et cetera, et cetera. And so I just really decided I need to go with my heart and what my intentions are for this podcast. And don't get me wrong, of course, it would be awesome if it was hugely successful and I was able to do it full time and really devote all of my energy to it. But honestly, why I really started it was to just help folks deal with their issues and challenges and situations in life and live a better, happier, more fulfilling existence here on the planet in these physical bodies that we find ourselves in. So I changed the name to I Care About You because honestly, I think a lot of us feel that no one cares about us. I think a lot of us feel that there's no one out there that really cares about us and really supports us and really is cheering us on and there for us, that there's so many conditions in that atmosphere that we sometimes feel that if we aren't doing what other people want or reacting in the way other people want us to react, then we are, in essence, not getting the care and nurture that we need. It's also really hard to ask for care and nurturing from others because in American society anyway, we are so conditioned to think we have to do it all on our own. And if we aren't, there's something wrong with us and we're lame if we can't just handle the whole world completely 100% by ourselves with no support or help ever. I personally think that that is just a real disservice to humanity to think that we can't rely on each other for care and nurture and love and thoughtfulness. When I first started the podcast, I'll admit that I was kind of angry. I was in a relationship where I felt like the other person was not listening to me whatsoever at all. I wasn't getting that care I needed. It was like this bare minimal amount of what I wanted, but not genuinely putting that effort into it. It was more like whatever effort was put into the relationship, it was for a kickback for the other person. Like, I'll help Juliana out with this, but that's really all I can do in the love and care department. I can't do any of that emotional work. I can only do tasks. And that was really hard, and I was pretty angry about it. And it's not right for me to be angry about it because what I should have done is just say, no, that's not for me. Everyone's on their own spiritual journey here. So if that's where this person is, that's completely acceptable and right. And to stop trying to make the person hear me and shift because that person really just wasn't ready for that, right? So I was really angry about that for a long time. And then I decided I need to just let it go. I need to let it go. It is what it is. I don't have to be in that relationship with that person anymore. I can choose to do something else, be with someone else, make a different friend, and all of those things. I don't have to be in a relationship with that particular person if the relationship is not mutually serving. But because I'm a people pleaser, I kept trying to serve that relationship. And it was a challenge for me, but in the end, I just had to distance myself from that relationship And I was really angry about it because I had put a lot of time and energy into the relationship. I had really wanted it to grow and become something really deep and engaging, and it just wasn't going to go down that road. And I was bitter, and it wasn't really the right stance to take. If I was fully present in myself, I would have just realized that that person is on a different journey than me, and that's completely okay. So the podcast title I started with was kind of an angry response to that. I was really sick at that point because so much of my life I had gotten in relationships. And when I talk about relationships, I'm talking about all relationships that we have. I'm not saying the relationship I specifically talked about was one particular kind or another, but I had just found that I attracted a lot of people in relationships that recognized that I was a giver, and the relationship became, in my mind, giving, 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 and not getting the same giving back. Like, it's not like people were necessarily incredibly cruel, although some people were kind of cruel, but other people were just giving a baseline. I'm giving you this much, but you want this much. I'm giving you this top layer. I used to call them surface dwellers. Like, I'm giving you what I can here on the surface, but I can't go deep. And so if that's what you want, I can't do that, or I can't give you that, or I can't be there for you. Just buck up and don't need anything from anybody. Now, I'm not saying swing to the other side of the pendulum and be the neediest person that there possibly is, because that is not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying, again, there's this middle ground where you don't have to do everything on your own up here at this end of the pendulum, but you also don't have to be so dependent on others that you can't live life independently, right? You're finding this middle ground. And I didn't really know that for a really long time, until quite recently, I'd say a couple years. So I spent a lot of time trying to get folks to care deeply about me in the way that I had defined what caring deeply is. And I just kept coming up against people that really couldn't go there, that wasn't really where they were in their lives. Their version of caring deeply was something else. And this relationship where I realized it was happening again really pissed me off, because in my mind, it was this relationship that was happening to me again. I just piled on top of all the other relationships that had done that to me in the past. And let me just say that I am not the best friend either. I am not. I don't like talking on the phone. I will forget your birthday. I have some block against gift giving. I have a lot of things. I've really struggled my whole life just staying in something and not running away, because it's easier to just be by myself where there's no expectations than sit in something for a long time. I have a lot of my own issues. So I'm not saying I'm the pinnacle in all relationships I have, because that is not the truth. What I was looking for from other people, I just really wasn't getting it on this relationship kind of basis. And I think a lot of it was, ever since I've been little, I've been a little unusual, and that has never been received well. It's always been, can you kind of conform a little bit more because you're not quite subscribing to the belief system that everyone else in the group has. And I think a lot of really creative folks tend to find themselves there. You're just creative. You're thinking in different ways naturally. That's just how you are. You're contemplating things in a way that other people are not. Other people are uncomfortable with that because they want you to get with the mainstream programming. And if you're just not that kind of a person, you can often find yourself a little ostracized by folks, or you conform to have friends. And I did a quite a lot of that just conforming to what everybody else wanted, because obviously they don't want me in my pure essence. They want this other thing. So I was really mad at that. And I don't know if you do this, but I certainly do this. Whenever there's anything like a reoccurring theme that comes up in my life, I pile it in a big stack. So it gets piled on top of each other. Or if I'm in a relationship with somebody and they never ever say they're sorry for something, I'm pulling sorry out of them all the time. They're never just genuinely saying, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. So over time, I feel like they're ingenuine because they're never saying sorry. And they're kind of repeating a lot of the things over and over and over again that they said sorry for. I start piling that in a pile of, here's another thing the person didn't say sorry for. Here's another thing I forced them to say sorry for. Here's another thing they're just saying sorry because they want it to go back to normal or whatnot, me not to be mad anymore, or whatever my perception of it is. I'll just put it in this pile and it keeps piling up, and eventually I fall off the cliff, I call it, where you can push me so far, but if you're not going to meet me, eventually I fall off the cliff and then I'm over it and I don't come back. I'm not saying that's the right way to go about things, but that's the way I've sort of conducted myself throughout life. Is you can push me and push me and push me and push me, and it might take years and years and years of doing the same thing to me over and over and over again. And then one day it's the straw that broke the camel's back and I just can't do it anymore. So I had let these relationship situations kind of build up into this giant pile. And that's when I started the podcast of, I'm really mad about these things. I'm mad about people taking advantage of me. I'm mad about people not meeting me where I need to be met. I'm mad at people not genuinely caring about me. I mean, why can't I be in a relationship where someone is kind? I didn't really realize my role at that time in this whole thing, which is just a lot of fodder for future podcasts because it would be too long to go into it now. But I do realize now I played a role in all those things. I manifested all those things. I created all those things. And I let all those things chronically take over my life. And over this past 2 years, I've really been working hard on that. I got to a place where that wasn't me anymore. It genuinely wasn't me anymore. I mean, I was at my writing group on Saturday, and I usually write about a lot of things that the world is, to me, that I find sad or tragic or something like that. My writing is not necessarily funny or anything like that. And so I was in the writing group and I was trying to write this thing about how I think about things in this way that I need to do all this work. It was an ode to a dog, and I was writing it. It wasn't really feeling genuine while I'm writing it, but I'm like, oh, this dog is afraid of jumping on things that are big. It perceives it as a mountain, and I do the same. And this dog is fearful, and I am the same. And this dog is grumpy, and I am the same. And as I was writing it, and that's not really doing it justice, it was much deeper than that, really. But I was like, as I was writing it, I was thinking, oh, this isn't genuine. I don't really like this writing. But I continued on because I'm so used to writing in a kind of deprecating way about myself. So I'm writing away and I'm prefacing myself as like, oh, I'm like all these things. And I realized after I wrote it and then read it to the group, and I felt like, oh, this is really kind of crappy writing. I don't like this at all. That it was because it wasn't genuine, that I was no longer in those places. That maybe I'll dip into those places and dip out of those places from time to time. But at this moment, I'm not there. And it was really exciting and joyous to me. And I realized, like, my podcast is moving into this place where I want you to know that I care about you. I care about you greatly, and others care about you too. And I don't want anyone to feel alone or that they can't find someone to care about them. that there are many people that care about you, many people. And so I changed the name of the podcast. And moving forward, I just really want that to be what I hold in my heart as I'm talking to you. And I hope you like it. I hope it makes sense to you. I do care about you deeply. I support you, and I love you. And I'll see you in the next one.